Catch the wave. You're listening to Wave Radio, your home for uplifting gospel music.
You're listening to the Afternoon Praise Podcast with Demetrius L. Brown.
What's going on, everybody? You're listening to the Afternoon Praise, and it is Motivation Monday. Yes, and we are here at the beginning of a new week. And if you are listening, guess what? God has blessed you with another day. He's giving you grace. Yes, he has. But I want to thank you for joining me on this day, on this Motivation Monday. But let me ask you this. Have you ever noticed how easy it is to make a decision and how hard it is to keep it? See, you said this was going to be the year you got in shape, the year you started the business, the year you finally got serious about your relationship with God, or the year you were going to stop procrastinating and start building the life you know you're capable of. But now, somewhere between the excitement and the decision and the routine of everyday life, something happened. What happened? I'm glad you asked. The feelings faded. The alarm clock rang. The distraction showed up. And the dream that felt so alive on Monday quietly became maybe next month. Now, here's the truth most people never hear. See, success isn't lost because people lack talent. Success is usually lost because people depend on motivation. And see, motivation has never been designed to carry the weight of your purpose, people. And I want to welcome you to the Afternoon Praise. And today we are talking about motivation doesn't build experts. Discipline does. And I want to take our foundational scripture today from 1 Corinthians 9, verse 24, where Paul says, "Know ye not that they which run in a race run all, but one receiveth the prize? So run that ye may obtain." See, Paul isn't talking about running faster than everyone else. He's talking about living the discipline of someone determined to finish well. And today's lesson, people, today's show again, motivation doesn't build experts. Discipline do. And we're not preaching, we're teaching. And I'm setting up the play for successful understanding. Hey, you're listening to the Afternoon Praise. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown. Tell a family member, tell a friend to lock in here on Wave Radio.
Join us on this heavenly journey, one song at a time, Wave Radio.
If you just tuned in, you're listening to the Afternoon Praise on this Motivation Monday. Now, let's talk about the naming gap. See, here's the confusion I want to clear up right away. Motivation and discipline are not the same things, and treating them like they are the same things is why so many good, called, and gifted people stay stuck in the same place year after year. See, motivation is a spark. It's emotional. It shows up when your circumstances line up. Good sleep, good news, a good sermon, a good quarter. But motivation was never designed to carry weight. It was designed to get you off the bench. It was never built to play all four quarters. See, discipline is different, people. Discipline doesn't ask you how you feel. Discipline asks, what did you commit to? And then it does the things whether the coffee hit right or not. Yeah. See, and then it does that thing whether the coffee hit right or not. Now, for y'all who don't drink coffee, you know what I mean? When we take that sip of coffee in the morning, but ooh, that hit right, I'm ready to go. But for some of y'all, it might be tea. For some of y'all, it might be a speech or a sermon or something. But when it doesn't hit right, you still got to go and do what that is you committed to. See, let's look at Proverbs 16, verse 3. It says, commit your work to the Lord and your plans will be established. Notice it doesn't say commit your feelings. It says commit your work. See, God established plans, not moods. See, motivation get you in the game. Discipline decides how long you stay in it. Hey, you're listening to the Afternoon Praise. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown.
You're riding the waves of faith and grace on Wave Radio.
You're listening to the Afternoon Praise here on this Motivation Monday, and we are talking about motivation doesn't build experts. Discipline does. And let's talk about the wall without the walls. See, let's go a little deeper, because scripture doesn't just tell us discipline matters. It tells us what happens when it's missing. And Proverbs 25 verse 28 says, a man without self-control is like a city broken into and left without walls. See, think about that image for a second. A city with no walls isn't a peaceful city. It's an exposed city. Anybody can walk in. Anything can walk in. Discouragement walks in. Distraction walks in. See, somebody else's opinion of you walks in and set up shop like they own the place. See, that's what happens when you're running your life, your business, your household purely on motivation. The moment the feeling leaves, there's no walls left standing, and everything you built is exposed to whatever shows up next. See, self-control isn't restriction. It's protection, people. It's the wall around the city you're building. See, discipline isn't a cage. It's a wall, and walls are what let a city keep sleep in peace. Hey, you're listening to the Afternoon Praise. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown.
Bringing the sounds of heaven 24/7, Wave Radio.
You're listening to the Afternoon Praise here on Wave Radio. Let me tell you this. Y'all know I love Nehemiah. I love the story of Nehemiah, and I bring Nehemiah up and everything. But let's be honest. Nehemiah built on a schedule, not a speech. See, I want to bring you a man who understood this before it was a leadership principle. See, Nehemiah didn't rebuild the walls of Jerusalem with a hype speech and a good feeling. He assigned families to specific sections of the wall and gave them a structure to follow, even while real opposition was trying to stop the work. See, when morale dropped, he didn't try to manufacture more motivation. He adjusted the system. 62 years of neglect undone in 52 days. I'm say that. 62 years of neglect was undone in 52 days. Not because everybody stayed pumped up the whole time, because the process didn't require them to be. See, if your ministry or your business or your family is waiting on everybody to feel motivated before it moves forward, you're going to be waiting a long time. Build the schedule. Let the system carry what the feelings can't. See, you don't need everybody fired up. You need everybody assigned. Hey, you're listening to the Afternoon Praise. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown.
Bringing the sounds of heaven 24/7, Wave Radio.
You're listening to the Afternoon Praise on this Motivation Monday, and we are talking about motivation doesn't build experts. Discipline does. And let's go back to the Bible. We're gonna go to the Bible. We're gonna go back to the Bible a couple more times. Couple more. That's how we say in the country. A couple more times. See, Paul trained like an athlete. Paul wasn't a fan. See, let me break that down for you. See, now let's look at the New Testament, because Paul gives us the clearest picture in all of Scripture of discipline over emotions. Let's go to 1 Corinthians 9. Paul says, "Do you not know that in a race all the runners run, but only one gets the prize? Run in such a way as to get the prize." And then he says something that should stop you. He talked about disciplining his own body, keeping it under control, so that after preaching to others, he himself wouldn't be disqualified. See, Paul is a tent maker and a theologian, carrying the weight of church planting across the Roman world. Beatings, shipwrecks, imprisonments, and he's talking about training like an athlete. For a fan cheering from the stands, an athlete running every single day, whether the crowd is loud or silent. You got to do the same thing. Everybody's not going to cheer for you. The people you think who should be cheering for you are not going to cheer for you. Yes, but you got to keep running. You got to keep going. Your emotions cannot get in the way. And see, that's the difference between a fan and a player. See, a fan needs the atmosphere to get excited. A player shows up regardless of the atmosphere because the player has something that the fan doesn't. And that's a training regimen. See, fans need atmosphere. Players need a regiment. Decide which one you are. And if you're walking in your purpose, you can't be a fan. You have to be a player in your own game. Hey, you're listening to the Afternoon Praise. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown.
Catch the wave. You're listening to Wave Radio, your home for uplifting gospel music.
You're listening to the Afternoon Praise. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown. Let's go here. The gym was empty, and he showed up anyway. Who am I talking about? I know y'all know who I'm talking about. We're talking about Kobe Bryant. But hold up, before I go there, let me bring you somebody more recent. Because this principle didn't stop showing up after the New Testament. See, Kobe Bryant became known for something that had nothing to do with talent. He was famous for being in the gym at 4 o'clock in the morning, working on his footwork while the rest of the league, the fans, and even on teammates were still asleep. See, nobody was cheering. There were no cameras. There was no crowd energy to borrow from. Just a man, a basketball, and a decision he made long before that morning ever arrived. See, that's not motivation, people. Motivation doesn't get you out of bed at 4 a.m. or on a random Tuesday, especially if it's cold, raining, Shout out to the late Kobe Bryant. He was disciplined. See, when there's no game and no applause waiting on the other side, you still gotta get up, show up, and you gotta practice. You cannot become strong and become an expert in what you do if you do not show up before the lights, the cameras, and the fans show up. See, something else got him up too. The same something that got Paul up and got Nehemiah's crew back on the wall every morning, regardless of how the last day had gone. What is your something? What is your something? You got to figure that something out. See, championships aren't won in front of the crowd. They're won in the empty gyms nobody saw. Hey, you're listening to the Afternoon Praise. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown.
Catch the wave. You're listening to Wave Radio, your home for uplifting gospel music.
You're listening to the Afternoon Praise. And if you miss any part of this show, you can go back and listen to the replay on my YouTube channel. That is Demetrius L. Brown, the business point guard. And if you don't like YouTube, you can go to any platform you listen to your podcast and put in the Afternoon Praise, and it will come up for you. But let's talk about why your brain loves feelings more than the work. See, let's step into the science for a moment. See, because this isn't just spiritual, it's neurological. And understanding it will set you free from blaming yourself for something that actually just how the brain works. See, think about when you first learned to drive. Every mirror check took concentration. Every turn, every pedal felt like it demanded your full attention. You were exhausted after 20 minutes on the road. But years later, you're driving home from work, carrying on a full conversation, barely remembering the last 10 minutes of the trip. What changed, people? Not your motivation, your brain. See, your brain built new pathways. The task moved from something that's required intense effort, focus, to something that runs almost automatically. See, that's not a metaphor. That's how God wired the brain to reward consistency. See, every rep you put in is moving the task from "I have to force this" to "this is just how I am now." See, I'm great at radio because I practice this. I do this. And I just don't do it when I'm on air. I'm always researching. I'm always studying. Matter of fact, I'm looking up how to do mouth movements, gestures. I'm building my vocabulary. It's things I'm doing to strengthen my show, because guess what? My show won't strengthen itself if I don't put the work in. And if you don't put the work in, what you try to call yourself an expert in, you are not an expert. Experts continue to grow and learn. See, the discipline that feels hardest today is the habits that will feel automatic tomorrow. If you don't quit in between, people, don't quit. Stay strong. Hey, you're listening to the Afternoon Praise. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown.
Join us on this heavenly journey, one song at a time, Wave Radio.
You're listening to the Afternoon Praise. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown. How many of y'all know about decision fatigue and the power of a system? See, here's something else the research shows that I think will change how you structure your day. See, every decision you make pulls from the same limited tank of mental energy. What's called decision fatigue? See, if you wake up every morning having to decide whether you feel like praying, feel like working out, feel like making those calls, you're burning fuel on a decision you shouldn't even have to make anymore. That should be natural. I gotta get up. I gotta pray. I gotta go work out. I gotta make these calls. See, that's why successful people build systems instead of relying on daily motivation. A system removes the decision. You don't decide whether to pray at 6 a.m. It's just what happens at 6 a.m. You don't decide whether to make your follow-up calls. It just Tuesday's schedule. Same reason Kobe Bryant didn't have to talk himself into the gym every morning. He wasn't negotiating with himself at 4 a.m. The decision had already been made years earlier. All that was left was execution. People, make the decision. Be great. Stop practicing decision fatigue. Yes, it's you. It's you. See, stop making the same decisions every single day. Make it once, build the system, and let the system make it for you from now on. Hey, you're listening to the Afternoon Praise. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown.
You're riding the waves of faith and grace on Wave Radio.
You're listening to the Afternoon Praise. Let me bring this into the marketplace, because this principle built more than championships. The city walls, it built industries. And see, Thomas Edison tested over 6,000 different laminate materials before he found one that will hold up in the commercial light bulb. 6,000 people. Now, I promise you, Edison was not emotionally inspired for 6,000 consecutive experiments. There were mornings he probably, and I don't know the dude, I won't dare, but I promise you, there were moments he probably didn't feel a thing. But he had a system. Tested, recorded, eliminated, moved to the next one. And the system didn't care how he felt that day. And some days he probably felt like a failure. He probably felt like quitting. He probably felt like giving up. And just imagine if he gave up on that 5,999th time. That 6,000 times the experiment wouldn't have came when the light bulb was created. See, that's the difference between an investor and a dreamer. That's the difference between an inventor and a dreamer. See, an inventor, an investor, and somebody who invents something, they are investing. They're not just dreaming no more. See, a dreamer needs the excitement to stay in the lab. An inventor built a process that works without or with the excitement. See, genius isn't a feeling. It's a 6,000 ordinary repetition nobody was cheering for. What a genius. And we got the light bulb 6,000 times. Hey, you're listening to the Afternoon Praise. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown.
You're riding the waves of faith and grace on Wave Radio.
Hey, you're listening to the Afternoon Praise here on Wave Radio. And today we're talking about motivation doesn't build experts. Discipline does. Now, let's ask yourself this. Would you hire yourself from 5 years ago? Now here's a question I want you to sit with, because I love you enough to make you uncomfortable for a second. Would I have hired myself 5 years ago? No, I wouldn't have. I would not have. Would I hire myself 2 years ago? No, I wouldn't have. I'm just being honest. Man, within these years, I've learned a lot. And especially, learning, being in church leadership, I've learned a lot being under a great leader. My spiritual father, my pastor, Bishop Bryant J. Pierce, when he brought me on to be campus director, I'm glad that he put some protocols, some systems in place to teach me some things. I've learned a lot under his leadership. So, these last few years have been great. Now, I've done a lot. I teach a lot. I coach a lot. But sometimes the teachers and the coaches, we neglect being taught and being coached. We have a narrow way of looking at things, but not knowing, hey, we got to get out of our way and we got to get under somebody. We got to learn too. We got to stop just reading, stop watching videos. We got to get under people, because guess what? There's someone greater than us. There will always be someone greater than us, just like we are greater than other people. So we have to learn. But so just imagine you graduated college, a training program, whatever it was, and you decided you were done learning. No new skills, no new books, no new reps for the next 5 years. Now, imagine walking into a room to compete for a promotion, a client, or a deal against somebody who never stopped learning the entire time. Who do you think wins the room? That's a no-brainer, people. It's the person who never stopped learning. Experts always learn. Billionaires, I don't care what level, they're always learning. See, that's not hypocritical for most people. That's exactly what's happening to them right now. They just haven't noticed yet. Your giftings got you in the door. But if you stop growing, the version of you that got hired 5 years ago is now competing against everybody who kept sharpening themselves. Nobody gets to coast on who they used to be. No, not no more. You can't do that. It's never been that way. But we have been manipulated to say, man, you are great. People walk up to you, hey, man, you used to do da-da-da. Man, I remember you da-da-da. And you all up in the glory. Yeah, man, yeah. But then there's somebody else, man, that's great, who kept doing, kept practicing, kept learning, and they're greater than you. They're living off of current moments. You're living off of past experience, past glory, past hype. See, what got you the seat won't keep you in the seat. Only growth keep you in the seat. Hey, you're listening to the Afternoon Praise. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown.
You're riding the waves of faith and grace on Wave Radio.
You're listening to the Afternoon Praise, and this is Motivation Monday, and we are talking about motivation doesn't build experts. Discipline does. Let's talk about the competence loop. See, now here's how this all connects into something you can actually use starting today. See, there's a pattern researchers call the competence loop. And it works like this. Deliberate practice increases your actual capability. Increased capability changes how you see yourself. And that new identity fuels the next round of practice. Notice where it starts. It doesn't start with a new identity. It doesn't start with I am a disciplined person as a feeling you conjure up. It starts with the practice, the unglamorous repeated action, and the identity catches up afterwards. See, every rep is a vote for who you're becoming. Every book you read, every new vocabulary you learn, it's a vote for who you're becoming. And eventually, you cast enough votes that the identity is just true. See, this is why so many people get discouraged. They're waiting to feel like a disciplined person before they act like one. That's backwards, people. It's backwards. Act first. Identity follows. See, you don't feel your way into discipline, people. You act your way into an identity. Hey, you're listening to the Afternoon Praise. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown.
You're riding the waves of faith and grace on Wave Radio.
You're listening to the Afternoon Praise here on this Motivation Monday, and we're talking about motivation doesn't build experts, discipline does. Let's take this off the whiteboard and put it on your calendar, because I told you I'm not here to just make you feel something. I'm here to help you execute something, people. That's why I go by the business point guard. I set up the play. See, in business, this shows up as the difference between companies that run on quarterly hype and companies that run on daily metrics. See, the organizations that consistently outperform aren't the ones with the best pep talk. Yeah, you can do it, man. You the man, you the girl, you can do it. We can do this thing. We the big company. No, it's not the pep talks. They're the ones with discipline, metric-driven daily protocols that don't depend on anybody's mood that day. And see, the same standard on a Tuesday morning as on a lunch day. See, if your business only performs well when you personally feel inspired to lead it, you don't have a business. You have a mood with a logo. And I'm going to say that again. You have a mood with a logo if your business is fueled and is run by how you feel or being inspired. See, build the protocol, build the checklist, build the system that runs even on the day you don't feel like running it. See, a real business runs the same on your worst days as it does on your best days. Hey, you're listening to the Afternoon Praise. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown.
You're riding the waves of faith and grace on Wave Radio.
You're listening to the Afternoon Praise. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown, and we're talking about motivation doesn't build experts, discipline does. Okay, so we talked about the workplace. We talked about the court with Kobe Bryant. We talked about Nehemiah, but let's talk about what this looks like at home. Yes, in your home. See, now let's bring this into the house, because discipline that only shows up at work and disappears at home isn't discipline. It's performance. See, your family doesn't need you motivated. They need you consistent. The parent who prays with their kids only when they feel spiritually, or is teaching those kids that faith is a mood. The parent who prays with the kids on the good days and the hard days is teaching those kids that faith is a foundation, something that holds regardless of how anybody feels that evening. See, same with your marriage. Love as a feeling will come and go. That's normal. That's human. But love is a discipline, a decision you keep making on purpose. It's what scripture actually calls us to. See, feelings follow committed actions far more often than committed actions follows feelings. See, your family doesn't need your mood managed. They need your commitment kept. Hey, you're listening to the Afternoon Praise. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown.
Bringing the sounds of heaven 24/7, Wave Radio.
You're listening to the Afternoon Praise. Hey, I need for you to follow me on my social media. If it's Facebook, I need you to look Demetrius L. Brown, SOG. Instagram, The Business Point Guard. YouTube, The Business Point Guard. Follow me, okay? I need you to help me grow this. I thank you for the listenership of the show. Man, the show listenership has been growing, and I thank you all. But today we're talking about motivation doesn't build experts, discipline does. See, what this look like in your walk with God? What does discipline look like in your walk with God? See, and let's bring it. You hear that study? I laugh at myself sometimes, but let's bring it all the way home to your relationship with God, because I think this is where the enemy has convinced the most people to disqualify themselves. See, you don't feel like praying some mornings. You don't feel like reading the word some weeks. And too many believers have taken that lack of feeling as evidence that something's wrong with their faith. See, it's not evidence of a broken faith. It's evidence of a human nervous system that was never designed to run purely on emotion in the first place, people. Not even your relationship with God. See, Paul disciplined his body. He didn't say he felt like doing it every day. He said he did it so he wouldn't be disqualified. See, discipline isn't the absence of faith. It's often the clearest evidence of it, people. It's you telling God, I trust you enough to show up even on the days I don't feel you. See, showing up when you don't feel like it isn't weak faith. It's often the strongest faith you will ever demonstrate. Show up, people. Just imagine if Jesus in the garden of Gethsemane, he gave up the cup. Just imagine if he went by how he truly felt. But he said, not my will, but thy will. Understand what your God-given purpose is and do it. Execute it. And I promise you, as you see people's lives change, you see environments change, communities change. When you don't feel like showing up, I promise you, you will keep going. You will keep pushing. Hey, you're listening to the Afternoon Praise. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown.
Bringing the sounds of heaven 24/7, Wave Radio.
If you just tuned in, you're listening to the Afternoon Praise. And today on Motivation Monday, we're talking about motivation doesn't build experts, discipline does. Let's look at, let me give you a formula. Let's look at a formula. See, let me give you something to put on your wall, because I believe in giving you language you can actually carry with you. Here's how I want you to think about mastery in anything: your faith, your career, your family, your brand, whatever. See, your talent plus inspiration are just your starting line. They're static. They don't multiply anything on their own. What multiplies everything is deliberate practice, sustained over time. See, time, T-I-M-E, time, isn't just another factor in this equation. It's an exponent. See, it's what turns small, consistent deposits into results that look impossible from the outside, but were completely predictable from the inside. See, to anybody who was watching the process, they already knew what was going to happen. It was predictable because they saw you practicing. They saw you reading. They saw you studying. They saw you being consistent. See, talent without practice is potential nobody ever collected on. Now, I'm going to say that again. Talent without practice is potential nobody ever collected on. But disciplined practice over enough time will outperform raw talent nearly every single time. See, that should be freeing to you. You don't need to have been the most gifted person in the room, people. You need to be the most consistent one. Hey, you're listening to the Afternoon Praise. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown. And remember, talent is a starting line. Discipline over time is the whole race. Hey, you're listening to the Afternoon Praise.
Catch the wave. You're listening to Wave Radio, your home for uplifting gospel music.
You're listening to the Afternoon Praise. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown, and we're talking about motivation doesn't build experts, discipline does. So here's what I want you to do before this day is over. I want you to be honest about one area. It can be your business, your body, your Bible, your relationships, whatever it is. Be honest about one area where you've been waiting on motivation to show up before you make a move. And ask yourself the question Nehemiah's crew had to answer every morning. What's my assignment today? Not what mood am I in, but what's my assignment? Ask yourself what Kobe knew at 4 a.m. Is anybody actually watching me right now? Or am I doing this because who I said I will become? Or Stephen King said it plainly, amateurs sit and wait for inspiration. The rest of us just get up and go to work. You already know which one gets the prize, people. The people who get up and go to work. Stop waiting for the feeling to give you permission. Give yourself the assignment instead. Hey, you're listening to the Afternoon Praise. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown.
Join us on this heavenly journey, one song at a time, Wave Radio.
You're listening to the Afternoon Praise on this Motivation Monday, and my time is up. And again, if you miss any part of this show, you can go to my YouTube channel. That is the Business Point Guard, and listen to the show entirety minus the music, or you can go to any of your podcast platforms. But I want to leave you with this. Here's the truth I want ringing in your ears long after this show is over with. You don't rise to the level of your motivation. You fall to the level of your discipline. See, say that back to yourself the next time you're waiting to feel ready. You would never consistently rise above the ceiling your discipline has built. Not in your business, not in your marriage, not in your walk with God. Whatever you're actually practicing, whatever systems you actually build, that's the level you will live at. Feelings or no feelings. God is not waiting on your emotions to line up before he uses you, people. He's watching you for your obedience to show up on ordinary Tuesdays and the tired Thursdays, the 4 a.m.s nobody's recording. That's where mastery actually gets built. Not in the highlight reel, in the repetition nobody see. So don't build your life on a mood, build it on commitment. Commit your work to the Lord and watch him establish what your feelings never could have carried on their own. Hey, I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown, aka the Business Point Guard. And again, I'm not preaching to you, I'm teaching. And I just set up the play for you. Now go run it. You don't rise to the level of your motivation. You fall to the level of your discipline. Hey, you was listening to the Afternoon Praise. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown. I'm out of here. I will catch you tomorrow on Triumph Tuesday. Peace.
You're listening to the Afternoon Praise podcast with Demetrius L. Brown.
Catch the wave. You're listening to Wave Radio, your home for uplifting gospel music.